Let me be clear from the start. Change does not take time. Change takes a decision. People say it'll take months for my life to change, and I say no, it'll take you one moment to finally decide. And when that decision is backed by commitment and action, everything in the universe starts moving in your favor. I made a decision 1 week ago, and in just 7 days, 5 simple habits began rewriting the trajectory of my life. I didn't need a new year. I didn't need a new job. I didn't need another opportunity. What I needed was to stop lying to myself about the future magically being better without me becoming better. These 5 habits didn't just shift my schedule, they shifted my spirit. They didn't just organize my time, they activated my calling. The first habit I developed was rising early with intention. Not just waking up early, anyone can do that, but rising early with assignment. Before the sun had a chance to light the sky, I was already in alignment. I spent time with my Creator, spoke life over my day, and planned my moves before the world made its demands. When you own your morning, you don't chase the day. The day starts chasing you. That first habit gave me dominion over my time. The second habit was writing my goals and visions every single day. Not typing them, not thinking about them, not wishing, writing. Because what you write, you ignite. I didn't write small goals either. I wrote things that scared me, things that made me feel unqualified. Why? Because if your goals don't require divine help, they're too small. When I wrote my vision daily, something happened. My spirit got agreement. When your spirit agrees, your body follows. My energy changed. My words changed. I started moving like someone who already had the answer, not someone begging for permission. The third habit was speaking declarations out loud. Life and death are in the power of the tongue, but most people only use their tongue for conversation, not creation. I wasn't just affirming myself, I was prophesying over my life. I stopped speaking about where I was and I started declaring where I was going. I began to say things like, I walk in divine health. Money finds me. Opportunities are attracted to my excellence. I am the lender, not the borrower. You cannot have a millionaire future with a minimum wage mouth. When I changed my words, my world started shifting. The fourth habit was disciplined consumption. I don't just mean food. I mean everything I allowed into my mind, heart, and spirit. I cut off toxic entertainment, conversations that drained me, and music that spoke death over my destiny. I replaced it with books, sermons, mentors, and teaching that stretched me, corrected me, and elevated me. What you consume will either contaminate your calling or cultivate your character. My thoughts got clearer. My appetite changed. I didn't even crave distraction anymore. I craved development. And finally, the fifth habit was radical execution. I didn't wait for motivation. I didn't wait to feel good. I acted. Every single day I did something uncomfortable that moved me closer to my calling. I made the call. I posted the video. I finished the project. I followed up. Action became my language of faith. You see, faith isn't just believing, it's doing. If you say you believe, but your feet aren't moving, you don't believe, you're just wishing. But when faith meets action, heaven responds. I started seeing results that made no sense in the natural. Doors opened that I never knocked on. These 5 habits changed my life. Not in a year, not a month, but in 1 single week. Why? Because when you align your habits with your purpose, time bends, acceleration happens. What should take others 10 years happens in your life in 10 days. Not because you're better, because you're aligned. Now, I'm not saying life will be perfect in 7 days. I'm saying when you make the right decisions and take the right actions, you activate a spiritual law, you reap what you sow. The problem is most people aren't sowing anything intentionally. But if you'll take these 5 habits and apply them without excuse, I believe you'll see something miraculous. You won't just change your week, you'll change your legacy. Don't wait, don't overthink, start today. Decide now, speak life, write vision, act boldly, and watch what happens when heaven sees a human who's serious. Change doesn't wait. It doesn't need to ask your past for permission. It only needs one thing, your decision. The truth is, most people don't struggle with change because it's hard. They struggle with change because they never really decided. They thought about it, they hoped for it, they even prayed about it, but they never crossed that invisible line in the spirit where you say, enough is enough, I'm not living like this anymore. See, the moment you make a real decision, everything in your life has to start adjusting to that choice. Circumstances begin to shift, resources begin to move, people start responding to the new energy you carry. Why? Because decisions create momentum. Not goals, not dreams, decisions. Goals inspire you. We've been conditioned to believe that change is a long, drawn-out process, that we need 30 days, 6 months, a new environment, or a new opportunity, but none of that matters if you haven't decided. You can put a procrastinator in a palace, and they'll still find a way to delay their destiny, because the palace doesn't change the person, the decision does. When I made the decision to change, nothing around me looked different in that moment. The same bills were there, the same challenges, the same doubts, but something inside of me shifted. And once the inside changes, the outside has no choice but to catch up. Because the outer world is always a reflection of your inner decisions. You don't need more time, you need more clarity. And clarity comes from decision. When you decide, truly decide, hesitation dies, fear gets quiet, and purpose gets loud. You stop checking for everyone's opinion. You stop waiting for conditions to be perfect. You realize that power has been sitting in your hands all along. So if you want to change your life, stop asking when things will change and start asking what you're willing to decide right now. Decide to be disciplined, decide to act, decide to believe in the vision, even when you can't yet see the evidence. Decision is not just a mental shift, it's a spiritual trigger. And the moment you pull it, you activate everything you've been waiting on. Change doesn't start next month, it starts now. In this second, with a decision. Habits aren't just routines, they are spiritual contracts. Every time you repeat a behavior, you're signing an agreement with your future. You're either writing a covenant with progress or co-signing your own delay. That's why habits aren't neutral, they are prophetic. They speak into where you're going or where you'll stay stuck. You may think brushing it off is just something I do is harmless, but in the unseen realm, it's binding something to your destiny. Think about this. When you consistently show up late, procrastinate, speak negativity over your life, or ignore your responsibilities, you're not just being human, you're reinforcing a spiritual contract that keeps you small. But when you choose to get up early, guard your words, feed your mind, and discipline your actions, you are forging an agreement with excellence, expansion, and divine alignment. Habits are powerful because they operate beneath the surface. They don't ask for attention, they just produce results, good or bad. And the danger is whatever you do repeatedly becomes your identity. If you keep making excuses, you eventually become someone who believes excuses. If you keep delaying action, you don't just have a problem with time management, you've entered into a spiritual agreement with stagnation. But the beautiful part, contracts can be broken. Covenants can be rewritten. The moment you become aware of what you've signed spiritually through your habits, you can choose to end it. You can cancel that agreement with mediocrity. You can reject the pattern that's been sabotaging your growth. And you can establish new contracts, habits that honor your calling, your health, your finances, and your relationships. Every habit is a seed that grows roots in the soil of your spirit. What you do daily is preaching a silent sermon about what you truly believe. If you believe you're chosen, your habits should reflect discipline. If you believe you're called, your habits should reflect preparation. Because it doesn't matter how big your vision is, if your habits contradict your destiny, they will sabotage it. So the question is not just, what do I want to achieve? The real question is, what am I in spiritual agreement with every single day? Your habits are proof of your true commitments. And if you want to change your life, you've got to change the contract. Tear up the one that leads to regret and sign the one that leads to legacy. Time doesn't move the same for everyone. That's a truth most people never understand. Two people can spend 10 years doing the same thing, and one ends up with transformation while the other ends up with frustration. Why? Because time is not the great equalizer. Alignment is. When your actions, your habits, your mindset, and your spirit align with your divine purpose, time compresses. Acceleration begins. What should take 10 years starts happening in one. What others struggle to build in a decade, you start seeing in a matter of weeks. Alignment is not about being busy. It's not about doing more. It's about doing what matters most in the right season, with the right mindset, for the right reason. It's the difference between grinding blindly and flowing in grace. And grace is efficient. Grace gets things done faster, cleaner, and with less resistance. But grace only operates where alignment exists. You can be talented, hardworking, and consistent, and still be frustrated if you're misaligned. When your habits are fighting your vision, when your words are sabotaging your prayers, when your schedule is full but your purpose is empty, you lose time. You lose momentum. You live in delay. That's why people burn out. Not because they're not doing enough, but because they're not doing what's aligned with who they're called to be. When I got aligned, things that used to take all my energy started flowing easily. Not because the world changed, but because I did. I stopped saying yes to everything and started saying yes to what matched my mission. I stopped trying to please people and started pursuing purpose. I let go of old identities that didn't fit the next version of me. And once I did, doors opened without knocking. People showed up who I hadn't even called, and ideas came that felt downloaded straight from heaven. That's the power of alignment. It's a spiritual key that unlocks acceleration. It doesn't skip process, but it eliminates wasted time. You don't get lost anymore because your internal GPS is finally tuned in. You don't chase things, you attract them. Because when you're aligned, you become magnetic to miracles. So if you feel like things are taking too long, the question isn't, what more do I need to do? The question is, where am I out of alignment? Because once you get aligned, mind, body, habits, spirit, God can do more in 1 week than you've done in 1 year. You don't need more time, you need more alignment. Motion is a gift, but discipline is a weapon. And if you want to build anything that lasts, your business, your calling, your body, your family, you must choose discipline over emotion every single time. Emotions are inconsistent. They shift with the weather, with what someone says, with how you slept or what you ate. But discipline doesn't ask how you feel. It shows up anyway. It does the work. It keeps the promise long after the excitement is gone. Most people wait for motivation. They wait until they feel like it. That's why they stay stuck. Because growth doesn't happen when you feel like it. It happens when you do it anyway. You think successful people wake up excited every day? You think they feel like showing up, performing, sacrificing, staying late, saying no to distractions? No. But they've trained their spirit to follow purpose, not feeling. That's the key. Discipline is what builds character. Emotion might inspire you for a moment, but discipline sustains you for a lifetime. Emotions scream comfort. Discipline whispers legacy. And legacy always wins. When you build the habit of choosing discipline, you don't need hype anymore. You don't need someone clapping for you. You become your own motivation. You become your own accountability. There will be days you wake up tired, days you feel overwhelmed, days when the voices of doubt get louder than your vision. That's when discipline becomes your lifeline. You do what you said you would do, not because it feels good, but because you gave your word. And when your word becomes law to yourself, you unlock a new level of power most people never tap into. Discipline creates freedom. It sounds backwards, but it's true. When you're disciplined with your time, you create space to rest. When you're disciplined with your money, you create the ability to invest. When you're disciplined with your mind, you gain peace. Discipline doesn't restrict you, it releases you. The problem is that many people are led by their moods instead of their mission. They follow their appetite instead of their assignment. But if you want to live a life of impact, if you want to build something that outlives you, you've got to rise above your emotions. You must become a person who does what's necessary regardless of the emotional weather. That doesn't mean you don't feel. It means you're not governed by how you feel. It means you've submitted your emotions to your purpose. And once your emotions are no longer the boss, your results will no longer be random. Discipline gives you control, and control gives you results. So the next time you don't feel like it, that's your moment of truth. Do you serve your feelings, or do your feelings serve your future? The choice is yours. But greatness never grows in emotional soil. It grows in disciplined ground. What you do daily is shaping what you become eternally. It may not seem like it in the moment, but your habits are carving the path to your destiny, one choice at a time. And the truth is, the smallest habits, those quiet, hidden decisions nobody sees, are the ones echoing the loudest in your future. You don't stumble into purpose, you walk into it through repetition, discipline, and intention. People often look for big breakthroughs, waiting for that one defining moment to change their life. But the reality is, your defining moment isn't one moment, it's the accumulation of small, faithful moments over time. The way you speak to yourself, the way you show up when no one is watching, the way you treat your body, the way you manage your time. These things may seem ordinary, but in the kingdom, the ordinary is where the miraculous is born. The habits you choose today are not just affecting your schedule, they're impacting your soul. When you choose to pray daily, when you choose to study, build, grow, forgive, and move with purpose, you are shaping the legacy your children will inherit. You are laying the foundation for generations. Eternal impact isn't built on convenience. It's built on consistency. Your habits are either building a future you'll celebrate or a future you'll regret. This is why you must be intentional. If you don't decide your habits, your environment will. And if your environment decides them, chances are they'll keep you average. They'll keep you distracted. They'll keep you busy doing everything but becoming who you're called to be. But when you become the architect of your habits, you become the architect of your future. Don't underestimate the power of daily discipline. Reading for 10 minutes a day may not look like much, but in a year, you're a different thinker. Speaking affirmations every morning may feel repetitive, but in a month, you're speaking differently, thinking differently, believing differently. Waking up early might seem hard, but in time, you've bought back hours everyone else is wasting. And here's the deeper truth. Your habits don't just impact you, they impact eternity. The way you live is leaving an imprint on the world, your family, your community, and generations to come. Your habits are spiritual seeds. And every seed has a harvest. That harvest may not show up overnight, but it's coming. And when it comes, you'll either be thankful you planted with intention, or you'll be frustrated that you ignored the soil of your life. So don't chase impact, build it daily. Show up when it's boring. Stay faithful when no one claps. And remember, heaven watches the details. Legacy is not created in the spotlight, it's created in the shadows, where daily habits become divine assignments. Faith by itself is powerful, but faith without action is empty. You can believe all day, declare all night, pray with passion, and write down every vision on your wall, but if you never move, nothing changes. Because faith isn't just what you feel or think. Faith is what you do. The formula is simple. Faith plus action equals breakthrough. You don't get breakthrough just because you want it. You get breakthrough because you move toward it with belief and obedience. Too many people are stuck in the waiting room of life saying, I'm just waiting on God. But God is often waiting on you, waiting for you to take the first step, waiting for you to obey without full understanding, waiting for you to act like what you prayed for is already done. Faith without action is like having a seed in your hand and never planting it. It has the potential for harvest, but no manifestation. God responds to movement. Every miracle in Scripture began with motion. The waters didn't part until Moses stretched his staff. The walls didn't fall until they marched. The woman didn't get healed until she touched the hem. The breakthrough didn't come while they sat still. It came when they acted in alignment with their belief. That's what real faith looks like. It's not just words, it's risk. It's stepping out before the conditions are perfect. It's applying for the thing you're not yet qualified for. It's making the phone call when your voice is shaking. It's building the vision when you don't yet see the provision. Faith moves first, and the resources show up second. But here's where most people stop. They pray and wait, but they never partner with the prayer. Faith is your belief, action is your agreement, and when you align the two, you activate the supernatural. It's not either or, it's both. You speak it and you move on it. You believe for it and you prepare for it. You declare it and you build for it. Your breakthrough is not waiting on more faith, it's waiting on more obedience. It's waiting on your willingness to act in the face of fear, to move without confirmation, to sacrifice when it's inconvenient. When your action says, I trust you, God, even when the evidence doesn't show up yet, that's when heaven responds. So don't just believe, build. Don't just speak, step. Don't just hope, hustle, and faith, because faith plus action isn't just a principle, it's a divine equation. It's how mountains move. It's how doors open. It's how the impossible becomes inevitable. Everything you want, every transformation, every breakthrough, every shift is already within reach. But it doesn't come by wishing, waiting, or hoping. It comes by decision. It comes when you understand that your habits are spiritual contracts, that your alignment with purpose compresses time, that discipline must lead your emotions, that your daily actions echo into eternity, and that faith without movement is just noise. This isn't about motivation, it's about maturity. It's about realizing that change doesn't require perfect conditions. It requires a powerful commitment. One decision to show up differently. One choice to let go of who you were and fully step into who you're called to be. The version of you that's consistent, aligned, disciplined, purpose-driven, and faith-led. That version is waiting for you to rise. You don't need more information, you need transformation. And transformation doesn't happen later, it happens now, in this moment, with a decision backed by action. Because when you move with clarity, when you honor the assignment, and when you trust God enough to act, even without full visibility, you don't just change your life, you change your legacy. The question is not, can your life change in a week? The question is, will you do what it takes? Will you choose the habits, the mindset, and the discipline that aligns with where you're going, not where you've been? Because when you do, 1 week is more than enough for God to start a new story, not because the week is magical, but because you finally decided to become the author